Good afternoon, Class of 4A. I'm a chicken in a top hat here to talk about Monopoly. Now, just what exactly is a monopoly? Well, a monopoly in its essence is a market in which a single seller dominates. So, picture a whole bunch of companies that sell chickens. That is what we would call a perfectly competitive market. Now, on the other hand, picture one huge chicken company. Now that is a monopoly. There are many ways a monopoly can form. For example, one of the chickens can place a fence around themselves, so other chickens can't enter. Then again, the chicken can literally kick the other chickens out, so they can't even do anything. Though if the chicken gets really creative, it can do something super special awesome. So they are superior chicken, because all the other chickens are simply not that awesome. Now, enough about chicken. How does a monopoly even form? Well, in a traditional economy, the average total cost of a product would drop as output rose. However, at a certain point, it would start rising because the company wouldn't be able to handle that extensive output. However, there's something called economies of scale, which means factors that cause a producer's average cost per unit to fall as output rises. In other words, it means, why is the company so flippin' awesome? With economies of scale, the company would not ever rise in price. It would keep on dropping. And because of this drop, and of other companies' costs rising, this company triumphs over other companies, because more people want to pay less. Now, there are many different kinds of monopolies. The most basic kind is a natural monopoly, which is a market that runs most efficiently when one large firm supplies all of the output. In other words, think of water. How exactly would people compete for water? Oh, my water is much cleaner than your water. Oh, my water has much more flavor. Oh, well, my water has economical worth to it. Yeah. Get over yourself. But on top of that, there would also be problems with giving water to every person, like bottling water, interconnecting tubes, trying to pay for unused tubes that people don't even need. Yeah, it's just a pain. So this is where governments generally go in and tell people, hey, we don't need this much water. We only need this much water. Now I'll give you two prominent monopolists in American history. One would be John D. Rockefeller. He monopolized oil through something called horizontal integration. That basically means he kicked everyone's butt and stole their companies. Yeah. I don't know if that was the best way to do it, but hey, it worked. Got him a lot of money. Actually, a lot of money. He is the richest man in history, undisputed. And let's put this to scale. Economies of scale. Haha! Did you guys get that? No? Okay, moving on. Well, you thought Bill Gates was rich? His net worth is $72 billion. Sounds like a lot, right? And yeah, it is a lot. I mean, he is the second richest man in our time. But Rockefeller, you see, had $663 billion net worth. That's pretty crazy. I mean, it literally wasn't $663 billion, and it was just $392 billion. But those were the times when a gallon of oil was like 50 cents. And it was probably Rockefeller that did that, because he did monopolize the oil, after all. But basically, every dollar meant more back in the day. So that $392 billion in that time is like $663 billion today. You might have heard of Rockefeller Plaza in New York. Well, the reason why it's so fancy was because of how rich he was. He was the real deal. Real D. Real D glasses. Get them at your local theater today. Anyways, moving on. Andrew Carnegie is another prominent monopolist. He wasn't as rich as Rockefeller. However, he did do two things. One, he invented the concept of vertical integration, which meant he controlled every single thing in the line of his production, leaving no middleman. There were still competitors, but since he could drop his prices to the ground, everyone couldn't even compete with that. Second thing he did was write a book. It's called The Gospel of Wealth. It's about his beliefs of the true road to success. In that book, he said, "Man who dies rich dies disgraced." The reason why he said that was because he donated a lot of money to the government. He gave $350 million to fund public libraries, higher education, and world peace. So he said. Now enough about that. The second type of monopoly would be the government monopoly, which is a monopoly created by the government. Simple as that. So, if you think of a government monopoly, try thinking of communism. Now, it doesn't have to be as extreme as communism, but communism is probably the best example, because the government uses force to prevent other companies from actually interfering from that company's profits. Did I confuse you yet? I sure have, because communism is confusing. Anyways, moving on. There are a couple strategies governments can use to actually secure the company's profits. One would be a patent, which is a license that gives an inventor of a new product the exclusive right to sell it for a specific period of time. In other words, imagine someone created the most amazing chicken incubator the world has ever seen, but there are people stealing his idea and flocking, taking all the money he could have gotten, and then dropping it. How does that make him feel? Much less like a man. So, patents are supposed to protect that inventor and allow him to claim the profits that was rightfully his or hers. Another technique the government can use would involve franchises and licenses. A franchise is a contract that gives a single firm the right to sell its goods within an exclusive market. An exclusive market being a restricted one. So, basically, it's giving this company the permission to actually sell its products and fencing away the other chickens out there, because you don't want the other chickens to interfere with your money. A license is a government-issued right to operate a business. So, what's the difference? Well, basically, think of it as national rights. President Obama gave you the right to sell that chicken incubator. There's no higher honor than that. Now that we've discussed the ways that government monopolies can form and the various examples of a natural monopoly, let's step in the monopolist's shoes and see how they roll. Now, there is a problem monopolists have. You have to realize that not every person wants product that you're offering. And not every person can even use the product or will use the product you're offering. So, monopolists have to try and find clean medium for that. And it is much more difficult than we presume. For one, since they actually have control over the market rather than other companies, they have to consider that they have falling marginal revenue. What does that mean? Well, marginal revenue is basically the benefits of adding one more thing. So, if they drop the price one, then they're actually losing more revenue than they could have, which in turn becomes a very huge problem. So, monopolists tend to try and keep their output at a down low and their prices at maximum. Why do they do this? Because as a monopolist, since you have very few competitors, demand is not a huge issue. So, to set a price, they try and even out the marginal cost and the marginal revenue. Marginal cost being the cost of actually paying every single person, paying for actually producing the object, to maximize the money they can attain before it drops too severely. Though, in a perfectly competitive market, you see, the marginal revenue is always equal to the price. So, they tend to take demand at a very high standard, which in turn lowers the price and vastly increases the outputs. That's good for us, but for the monopolist, they aren't making that much money. So, they drop the output they give and raise the price because they know for a fact someone's gonna buy their stuff. But in a perfectly competitive market, you never know if people are gonna buy your stuff or not. Though, there are limits to how much they can place on their consumers. So they do something called price discrimination, which is a division of consumers into groups based on how much they will pay for a good. What does this mean? Basically, sales. Sales on specific people, though. Like, you know how some kids go in for free, senior citizens pay less for airplane tickets, all that kind of stuff, because they know for a fact that some people are simply too poor to actually give the maximum amount of money. So they would rather them pay money than have them not pay at all. Though price discrimination is specifically a feature for monopoly. It can be used by anyone with market power. Market power being the ability of a company to control prices and total market output. Now, anyone can control their own price, but a monopoly can control the price of their whole entire market, which is why price discrimination is specified for them. So, what happens when monopolies collide with other monopolies? Well, that's not my job to explain. It's the next group. Well, this presentation has gone way too long. I'm a chicken in a top hat, signing out.